right, good morning, everybody. I'm Mimi, compulsive overeater and bulimic, and I'm abstinent today since September 29, 2019. And I am abstinent because I do what you guys all do. I weigh and measure 3 meals off the gray sheet. I write them down, I commit them to my sponsor. I don't eat between meals no matter what. And abstinence is the most important thing in my life, no matter what. And I am so grateful to be on this meeting. I know almost all of you. I've met almost all of you in person. And it's just, I'm always honored to be able to share my experience, strength, and hope here because this is the group, this is the program that absolutely changed my life. Absolutely changed my life. Um, so, just a few qualifications. Um, I am clean and sober from drugs and alcohol. May 9th, coming up on 20, what is it? 27 years. And I currently I'm in my 7th year of abstinence on Gray Sheet, although I've been in Gray Sheet since May of 2012. So a little bit about my history. I am actually currently living in the house that I grew up in California, Southern California. I have no complaints about my childhood. I had a very happy, uh, happy childhood, in spite of the fact that when I was in kindergarten, my mom was given a diagnosis of cancer. And I didn't realize then how it would affect me. I've since realized that it caused me to grow up really fast. I had a younger sister, and I became mom kind of to her. I would take care of her. I would read stories to her, and all of that actually propelled me into the field, the career that I'm in, which I'm a teacher. So it started back then. I did not have an issue with food, although I was told at an early age that I could smell sweets from the other room as a toddler. And it was just a joke. Family would laugh about it. It never really became an issue for me. I was very active until I hit puberty. That's when everything changed. The weight started to come on. I started having feelings. I started comparing myself to other girls in my class. And all of a sudden, I was not measuring up. I had a mom who suffered from her own demons of an eating disorder. She was anorexic, practicing anorexia. No one addressed it in my family, but our food was definitely managed and controlled. And it became an issue in high school when I was trying very hard to be thin like my mom. I absolutely adored my mom, and I wanted to be like her and look like her, and I couldn't. I could not be anorexic. So I tried every other way to manage and control, which for me became bulimia. It was exercise bulimia at first, and then a friend of mine taught me how to actually throw up. And it worked for a lot of years. I stayed in, I guess, what a normal weight, would look like. Um, and when I got to college, I remember my mom saying, when you go to college, I'm not going to be there to police your food. She used that word, police your food. And so you're going to have to, step up. Well, I had no tools. All I knew was how to starve or binge and then run miles and miles or throw up. I had no healthy coping mechanisms. So when I got to college and I could eat all I wanted and no one was there to
Maybe you
watch
have
me,
10 minutes left.
thank you. The weight came on and I got really scared. And I started doing more drastic measures to manage and control this weight, turning to drugs, turning to speed. My sister got on fen-phen. I decided to find my own fen-phen on the streets in the back alleys of Los Angeles. And that worked for a lot of years. It actually worked. I was very thin, but I was an empty shell. Now, from the outside, you would never know this, because I grew up in a family where the outside was what counted. No one talked about what was happening inside. No one talked about mom's anorexia or mom's alcoholism or dad's periodic alcoholism. No one talked about that stuff, but we all looked pretty good from the outside. So I managed to be pre-med, get good grades, and yet I was just dying inside. And I did not know what was wrong with me because no one was talking about it. I finally got into therapy, and she right away sent me to OA. I went to OA in Los Angeles. They were mostly bulimic, anorexic emphasis meetings. So it was very competitive. It was a bunch of 20-year-old girls. We were all sharing all of our tricks, and there was no recovery at all. But I heard the 12 steps for the very first time in my life, and that planted somewhere in my head, and it stayed there. So that when I finally reached a bottom with the drugs and alcohol in 1999, I knew where to go. I knew I needed to get into some kind of a rehab, which I did, and it was 12-step based. And they dual diagnosed me with addiction and an eating disorder. The only problem was they only offered me the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I tried really hard to work those on my eating disorder. And for me, it didn't work until I actually had to find a program that was devoted to the food. And I found CEA How. I stayed in CEA How for 11 years, never got more than 30 days, maybe got a few months, but in that program, grains are allowed after 30 days. You do gray sheet for 30 days, and then you're allowed grains. And hey, if you tell me I'm allowed grains, I will bring them in. And I started manipulating it and counting certain things as grains that are not really abstinent. And so for 11 years, and my sister and I did this program together, I was abstinent probably more days than I wasn't. So I got a taste. I got a taste of what this kind of recovery could be like, but I never quite surrendered. Um, I had a higher power all along. I just didn't surrender to this higher power. And it wasn't until I followed a member who is on this meeting into my first Gray Sheet meeting at the Grove in Los Angeles. And I could not believe that there were all these people sitting in the meeting in these, what I considered normal sized bodies with that Gray Sheet glow. And I just want to stop right here and just welcome our newcomers. I really hope that you stay. And if you don't hear your story in what I'm saying, go to another meeting. We have so many meetings on Zoom, and if you can find an in-person meeting, that's all the better. But it's so much easier to stay. My story is that I didn't stay. I stayed for the first several years getting day ones and day ones and day ones and day ones. And I just kept staying. And at that time, we had Skype meetings, and some of you were on those Skype meetings with me. And I just didn't want to leave because I didn't know where else to go. I feel like I had done all the other food fellowships. I did leave for 1 month, and I wrote it down, I went from 124 pounds to 158 pounds in 1 month. Because that's how I binge. That's how I eat when I'm not on Gray Sheet.
That's five
And
minutes left.
thank you, Sue. At the urging of my husband, he was pleading with me that one morning. He's like, please let me drive you to Santa Monica. Can you just go sit in that meeting? You don't have to share, but I don't know what to do with you. And I feel hopeless and hopeless. So I agreed. I went and I sat in that meeting, and miraculously, I ended up getting a year of abstinence. And then we went away on a vacation, and I took back my will. And I took back my will with a beverage that is not okay on our program. And I went to the Malibu retreat, and I heard someone at the podium not take a 10-year chip because she decided she needed to get honest. And that inspired me to open my mouth to my sponsor and say, I drank this beverage in Costa Rica. I am not abstinent. So I had to surrender my year at that point. After that, I ended up getting 4 years again. And lo and behold, it was another unabstinent beverage that I drank at another member of our house who's on this program. And that was in 2019. And that was the last time I took that independent, willful drink. And since then, I made a promise to myself and to my sponsor that I would be honest no matter what. There was so much shame in me failing at this program one more time that it kept me silent. And to be silent with a secret is absolute hell for a compulsive overeater like me. And thank you. I see everybody nodding in agreement. I realized that no matter what, I had to tell my sponsor. And it was helpful if I told her before, like as I had the thought, instead of afterwards. So I started to come clean and be rigorously honest. And that is what has kept me sober and abstinent for these last 7 years this time. I've gone through a lot of no matter what's. I was on an AWOL in 2018 when I lost my mom. And I thought that was going to be the end of the world and that I would never be able to stay clean, sober, abstinent. But you guys held me up. Like you literally held me up. Two people on this meeting were actually at my mom's funeral with me, creating this nice, safe little bubble around me so that I could actually eat my Gray Sheet weighed and measured lunch. Because we eat no matter what. We eat no matter what. And no other program for me besides Alcoholics Anonymous has ever had that message of a no matter what, like Gray Sheet does. And I realized that this is the last house on the block for me. And I'm really grateful for that. Today, my life looks completely different. I have a prayer and meditation practice that I do with my husband every morning. And like this morning, he ran out to a meeting. I decided to stay in bed. So we know that later on in the day, we will sit down with each other and do our prayer and meditation because that is really it's the foundation of my peace of mind today. And that is really what I want. Um, I answer my phone, I return texts, I talk to addicts all day long in either AA, Gray Sheet, it doesn't matter, but most everybody that I speak to on a daily basis are in recovery. And, I like to say that I put my life into my program. I don't try and fit my program into my life. My life is absolute recovery. And, it works for me one day at a time. And I love my food. I absolutely do not diet on this program. And I see that my time is up. So I'm going to pass. And I just want to welcome again those of you who are new to the meeting or feeling new or having day ones. Just stay. Please just stay. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening.